I just finished a session with someone. It's actually one of my best friends, and I've done like a remote reading with her, but I've never done like a full Zoom call. And we ended up being on the Zoom call for almost 2 hours, and it ended up being perfect because we're both ADHD girlies. So she was late getting on, I was late getting on, and then we ended up talking literally almost an entire hour, longer than we were planning. And it was really interesting I just fell in love with her. I fell in love with her. I already have so much love for this friend and so much respect for her. But it's like, it's so interesting being in an ego, or having an ego, like putting on an ego, okay? And knowing what it feels like to not be in an ego, and to like go in and out, to slip in and out of those two realities at this point multiple times a day, most days of the week. I don't know if people understand. I am doing readings. I am literally doing 2 to 3 readings a day, 5 to 6 days a week, okay? I'm not like soft girl era-ing it right now. I mean, to be fair, like what I do is breathtaking. But 2 to 3 sessions a day, I mean, I'm gonna have to like slow it down, because it's honestly, it's a lot, because like I'm saying, I'm slipping in and out of my ego form. And sometimes it feels really life-giving when I'm well rested, when I've eaten enough food, when I've freaking had enough water, when the technology is doing all the technology things I need it to do. Basically, like when I feel supported and when I am supporting myself, this feels like a really life-giving life and lifestyle. And to be honest, it doesn't feel like work. It doesn't feel like work, but it does feel like obligation, because it's like you have to be, on a Zoom call at a certain time. That's the obligation. I mean, so whatever. It's not in terms of obligations, it's a minor obligation. All that being said, I literally feel like sometimes I finished a session with this girlfriend, and I was like, I am in love with you. I am in love with you, because this happens where I feel like I am peering into somebody's soul, in places, not even into somebody's soul. I'm like peering into people's thought processes, their decision making skills, the decisions that they've made. I am peering into their logic and reasoning, into their subconscious. I mean, I am in it. I cannot think of very many other intimate ways to be involved with somebody. And mind you, I'm doing this 2 to 3 times a day, 5 to 6 days a week. So it's a lot of intimacy. And it's like what I'm doing is super fucking intimate. And it's beautiful, because I have this opportunity. I think of it as like speed dating, but it's like speed dating, but I'm on schmally for every single session. I mean, I'm not, obviously, but it's like that love that you have for other people. It's like you get to know, it's not even getting to know people. It's like I become privy to people's patterns, their thoughts of reasoning, their automatic responses, their challenges, the ways that they've pushed themselves and grown. I become privy to all of that. I become witness and observe all of that information. And when you're doing that, you can't help but fall in love with somebody. You cannot help but but love somebody. Like, you can't. I don't know, because and that's not to say it's not romantic or anything of that sort. That's not what I mean. But it's like I step out of session sometimes, and I am just floored by the magnitude and the beauty of some of my clients' life journeys and their processes, and not even that like they've lived their lives so beautifully or something, but it's like I just have such a deep, when you have, as I'm developing such a deep understanding of somebody over the course of say an hour, I kind of can't help but love them. And it's not a choice. I'm not choosing like, oh, I see all these redeeming qualities or characteristics in this person, I'm now in love with them. It's not like that. It's like a matter of consequence. And that's what I think ultimately like that is where humanity thrives, is in its, I can't even say humanity, but that's like where beings, whatever you want to call us, intergalactic beings, that's what my guides, extraterrestrial beings, that's what my guides want to call us, in our most succinct and parallel form, harmonious form, that is the kind of love that we feel for one another. It's honestly, it's astounding. But then there's other times where I can see people's life mission and life purpose, and I voice it to them like, hey, this is the thing that this is literally what you're here to do. And almost every single time I am blown away. Like I'm in a state of awe, like, wow, this is incredible that this is what you're here to do, because I can see it playing out. I see it playing out in real time. I see the decisions or the predispositions that had to happen in their early years, in their formative years, in their early formation. My guides are also like kind of, I'm channeling a little bit right now. In their formative years, whatever I just said, and in their past lives, I could see the things, the things that predispose them, that were pre-planned, that are precognizant, that led them to the exact places that they need to be to act on and complete their soul mission. And it is beautiful. It is beautiful. I've only seen it probably, I can think off the top of my head, maybe like 5 or 6 times. So not every time, because some people's like life mission is how do I phrase this? Some people's life mission is just or almost entirely to reorient themselves around some past life behavior or attitude or experience. So there's not a lot of like, yes, that helps the collective when individuals are in a healthier place, but it's not something that's ultimately for the collective. It's mostly for them, and then like the collective is benefited just because everyone is benefited when the people around you are more at peace with themselves. But then, like I'm saying, I've had like 5, probably even less, maybe like 4 to 6 clients where I've seen their mission. I've seen it. And every time I am more excited about it than they are. Every time I am like, because I can see it. And it's like so difficult to explain because they can't see it. They, like, for instance, I had a client, this happens almost every time, where I'm like, hey, you know that this is the thing that you're here to do, right? Because they'll mention like, oh yeah, I've like been looking into going into this program, or I've always been curious about doing this thing, and I'll like kind of look into it. And then sometimes it's like, yes, and you know that this is what you're here to do, correct? And every time they're like, yeah, you know, I've like kind of had that sensation. But then their ego, every time there's been some hang up. There, not every time, but probably almost every time except for one, there's been a hang up. Like, no, I know, but hold on, I gotta fix this. Is like too low. That's better. I think that's better. And then every time, hold on, I gotta freaking drink some water. And then 9 times out of 10, 5 times out of 6, the ego then has something, and it's a barrier. It's a false barrier. It's a false barrier because if your soul is here to do something, there's no real barrier. Do you understand me? Fucking listen to me. When your soul is here to do something, there is no chance in hell that it is not happening. But the ego, because of conditioning, past life, present life conditioning, because of scarcity mindset, like, oh, there isn't enough money for me to go to this training school. There isn't enough time, or I don't have enough energy. I don't have enough support. It's a scarcity thing that the ego, and like, that's all real. That's all real. I'm not saying these barriers are false. Those problems are real. Scarcity, I have come from scarcity. I understand that scarcity is real. I'm not here to downplay your ego's sense of not enoughness. The thing is that not enoughness only exists to the ego. It doesn't exist anywhere else. You hop out of your consciousness for 5 freaking seconds, scarcity doesn't exist. Like, the idea that there isn't enough of something would imply that there was a limitation to that resource, and there simply isn't. And it's like, this is what I'm saying about being a medium that is challenging, is like, I can see it. And the most difficult thing about being a medium is trying to get you to see it, because you can't see it as clearly as I can. And I'm not saying that to toot my own horn, other than like, that's why you hired me, is because I can see it more clearly than you can see it. I do think that we will come to a place in human history where I'm going to become obsolete. I think that like, people won't need someone like me, a medium, essentially an intermediate between the spirit world and themselves, because like, they'll have access and the abilities to just get there by themselves, which is wonderful, beautiful. I love that. There'll always be something for me to be doing. So it's not like I don't need to hold on to that as like a way to, how do I say this? I don't need to hold on to that as a way to create an income for myself. Like, that's just like such a moot point. I don't even know how to describe that. Like, I know I'm doing one-to-one sessions with people now, and that is my primary, I say income, and that's true, but it's like, I mean, it's like, yes, that's my primary income resource, how I'm like exchanging energy in order to sustain living on this planet. So yeah, I guess income. I get that I'm primarily doing that right now via one-to-one readings, but I get the sense that like, this is like, they're calling it, I have like a hair on my cheek. This is like the kiddie pool. It's like I'm dipping my toe in the water. They're saying I'm like ankle deep right now, which is to say that like, whatever is coming, it's to like, not just acclimate me to the water, but like, give my soul and my ego time to recognize that it's safe for me to do this again. But I do recognize that like, they're showing me I'm gonna literally be pushed in over my head, which fucking, that's tracking. I'm pretty much almost always asked to do things before I feel like I'm ready. I don't think I've ever done anything on this planet when I thought I was ready to do it, including starting this podcast, including opening up online and saying that I'm a medium, including telling other people I'm a medium, including becoming a medium, and doing this professionally. Like, I have not done pretty much anything in my life when I thought I was ready. It's almost always way before I feel like I'm ready. But that's like part of my life is almost, there's something in my personality. It's also in my astrology chart because I've been reading my astrology more just for fun. I don't really understand it, so I'm trying to learn it. There's something in it where I have an initiatory personality and perspective, where essentially like I do things that other people think of doing. Maybe it's not the exact thing, but it's like I do the big leap, and that inspires other people to make their big leap simply by watching me and by knowing they know that I'm not ready, and that resonates for them because they're like, I'm also not ready, but I guess if she can do it, then that's like, it's almost like I paved the way. I'm like the first buffalo to jump off the cliff, okay? And then it's like easier for everyone else to jump off the cliff. Okay. By the way, there are studies. This is so like, neurology is so incredible to me. There are studies of, it was mice or rats, some kind of rodents, where they put them in a maze, and the ones that they were in like family systems. So they put this like one, or they put a couple rats in a maze, okay? And then the subsequent rats, so they had, I don't know, 2 to 3 rats go through this maze and they make it out of the maze. Perfect. Then, but they're part of a family system. And I can't remember if they were like in the same, if they were then like placed back in the same cages with like their other rat family members. I don't remember. But the subsequent rats, the second and the third set of rats to then go through the maze, they made it through faster with less errors, made less wrong turns repeatedly. And like every single round of those rats made it through quicker and more effectively with less errors. And the idea is that there's some kind of shared consciousness, essentially, that I genuinely believe this. I believe that there are things in family systems, in generations, and then in the entire collective, like in the collective, all of the beings that have ever been on the planet. I think that it's like kind of split up. That's interesting. But anyways, I think that there's a collective consciousness, at least of like the more human of us, because there's beings on this planet that we all have mixed and shared DNA, okay? With like, don't even get me started with all of the different extraterrestrials, okay? We all have mixed DNA, but some of us are like more of something, less of others. So those of us that are like more human, which is really just like a mix of things. But anyways, those of us that are more human share a collective consciousness. And I genuinely believe that like it's through that consciousness that we are able to solve problems quicker, that science evolves, that behavior patterns evolve, that morality continues to shift and grow and be less individualistic and more collectively inclined. It's like standing on the shoulders of giants, that phrase, right? It's like because of those before us. But the thing is like we are those before us. Because what? We keep coming back to the planet. Do you see what I mean? So it's like through every lifetime, we stand on the shoulders of giants before us, but it's like we are also the giants underneath of us. So we evolve with every single lifetime. And because of that, the subsequent lifetime or the subsequent generation becomes more evolved in all those ways. Right. So then you could argue like, well, but bad things still really happen. No, they definitely do. The other thing that we are learning on this planet is, and I've mentioned this before, it's capacity. This is huge. Specifically, I see it in my life. This is huge. This is huge. Capacity. Opening up our capacity, widening the gap and being able to hold multiple things at once, I think is like, while living in some amount of detachment and neutrality, right? try to follow me here. So for instance, and I think that this is why I think this is why me personally, I'm an autistic person, is because autistic people, we have, or we characteristically have black and white thinking patterns, all or nothing thinking patterns. Like, well, they're the love of my life and now I fucking hate them. Do you want to know what other diagnosable sect of humans are like that? All of the cluster B personalities: NPD, ASPD, borderline, which includes like histrionic, antisocial personality disorder, and oh my god, lost my train of thought. And narcissism. They also have characteristically black and white thinking, all or nothing thinking. They'll pedestalize you and then they're gonna make you feel like shit. Like in the same, depends on the person, but it's like a cycle, right? I genuinely believe that part of their role in the lives that they touch is to increase basically their victims, to increase their victims' capacity. Because it's like, oh my God, I am being pedestalized and I have never felt this good in my life. Like, oh my God, this person is gonna bury me alive. And they absolutely hate me. And you're coming to terms with like not only two ways that one individual thinks of you, but it impacts the way that you think of yourself and impacts the way you think of that person. And I would argue like it is difficult to hold. How can somebody be this? Okay. And how can they also be this? How can they be both of this? And I think that the challenge for humanity right now, I'm getting the yin yang symbol, right? Because in order for something to be, there's no such thing as a true opposite. The yin yang symbol, the black side is more similar to the mirrored, reversed white side. What is that? Yang versus yin? The yin and the yang, they are more similar to each other than they are different. Do you see what I mean? Because they're both colors that are readily recognizable. They're not a gradient, they're not a pattern, they're not translucent. They're both colors. One is black, one is white. They are both the exact same shape. They're just flipped upside down and in reverse, but it's the exact same shape and they fit together perfectly. The opposite of a yin, the yin side of the yin yang symbol would be like an orange or like a kiwi fruit. Do you see what I mean? There's no such thing as true opposites because opposites are actually the exact same. They're the same frequency in opposite sides of the spectrum. But as I've talked about before, we're moving away from it, our understanding. It's not that we're moving away from our understanding of spectrums is going to be less of a 1, 2, 3-dimensional line, XY axis, to like an XYZ axis. So it's less of a spectrum and it's more of an entire, it's like a hexagonal shape essentially, right? And so it's like when somebody is treating you, for instance, pedestalizing you, we'll call that the yin. They're pedestalizing you. And then the opposite of that is degrading you. And in the case of like a narcissist, for instance, discarding you, that's the yang. Those are opposites, but they're not true opposites because, like I said, no true opposites don't exist. They are opposites, but they are more similar to each other and they are actually identical in frequency. They are just on opposite sides of the exact, they are in equidistance from their middle point. There's a middle point and degradation is the exact same distance from this midpoint as pedestalization, right? Now, what I think these individuals, in part, they're saying they're saying it's a, they being my guides, are saying, and or other beings, I'm not totally sure, they're saying that, okay, yeah, it was an unintended side effect or consequence, but they being like the light beings, I've heard them also called the white hats. They've asked me to call them the community, which is basically like there's the shadow government and then there's the light workers, the light government. Okay. And they've also asked me to call them the community, so I'll probably just refer to them as that. This like yin yang, these two major opposites, that was an unintended, that challenging the receiver of those two behaviors from, say, a cluster B personality person, it was an unintended consequence that would then challenge that person's perception and force them to live in more gray. Because if you don't come to terms, if you don't find a way to make those two things both coexist simultaneously in your brain, that causes serious not only mental health issues, but like soul stunting. There's like a growth process that can't happen if you're not able to make sense of two opposites coexisting at the exact same time. And so the white hats, the community, essentially you saw that and is using that to their benefit, not their benefit, but to humanity's benefit, to increase human beings' capacity to hold more capacity, to hold more more space for nuance. Man, I have no idea where that tangent came from, but it must have been important. So, yeah. Damn it, I wanted to talk about something completely different. Okay, I'm going to just pause and reset my brain for a second and go back to what I wanted to talk about, because I think that that's just what the guides wanted me to talk about. Yeah, they're saying yeah. Okay, pausing. So when I see people's life mission and their life goals, not even their goals, their soul mission, and then there can be this like limitation thing that sets in where they become like like all those things I talked about, like not enough money, not enough time, not enough resources. And sometimes they'll ask me like, yes, but can you see, like, is it possible for me to still achieve this thing? And in my mind, like every time I'm perplexed. I'm like, I don't know. Are you asking me if your soul is going to be able to complete the mission it came here to do because you feel like you don't have enough money for childcare to attend this school? Like, what are you even? It's like, it'd be like saying, like, are you sure we're gonna be able to start the car tomorrow because I saw a spider on the car hood last night? Like, what? That doesn't. That is such a moot point. Getting the car started and leaving in the car will not be impacted at all if there was, say, a spider on the hood of the car. It's just a moot freaking point, and it blows my mind because I'm like, wow, I 100% am not in my ego form right now, because my ego form would understand. My ego form understands, like, yeah, that makes sense. Like, how are you gonna, like, logistically, how? But I can see from that other side that there is nothing. I'm telling you, there's the only thing that can stop you is you. And even then, sometimes you can't even stop you. I would argue that my life seems to kind of be like that. Even I could stop myself, but like from completing my mission, I could. It would be really, really problematic, like on a soul level, if this ego decided to do things. And I would have to be so misaligned for so long that it's just like not. It could happen. Don't get me wrong. It could. I could always fuck things up. I could. Literally, I always fucking could. But I would have to be behaving antithetical to the character that I have built and been building for myself, that has been laid out, that has been built because of experiences that were laid out in front of me my entire life. So yes, I could go off course for sure. Like, we all have free will all the time. But in those moments, it's like really challenging for me to even see how my client could derail themselves, because it's not even about them. It's like the thing, their gift wants to come through so badly. It's not even about them. It doesn't, like, your gifts don't care that you don't have money for childcare. They don't care that you don't feel like you have enough time. They don't care that you want a cushy, cozy 9 to 5 with health insurance and to feel like you can pay off your AMX every single month. No, they don't care. Your gifts don't freaking, they don't care. It is such a moot point. They're like, none of that matters. I'm coming down, whether or not you like it. So you can either begin to prepare for me, and the universe, your guides, your dimensional self will always help you prepare for what is coming for you. My guides are telling me I should take my own advice here. I know, I recognize that. Thank you. I'm like an amphibian, okay? I like exist between worlds at all times. It's pretty bizarre. Anyways, what was I freaking saying? And then they interrupt me. Guys, what was I saying? Oh yeah, they'll always give you what you need to prepare for your journey. And the thing is, like, you don't have to get it right every time. As far as what I've seen, if I had to break it down as like a number, in order to, quote, get it right, in order to basically like live a soul-filled life, you really only have to listen to spirit, take that step, take the leap, like 1 out of 3 opportunities that it passes in front of you. Because the thing is, it'll keep passing in front of you until you finally do, or the universe will recalibrate and bring you something different. It'll bring you something more at your level. Do you remember those tests that we had to take in high school, middle school, where it was like, as you were taking the test, it was like, gosh, like quarterly or something? No, it was like once a year. And it was like to gauge how the whole nation was doing, essentially, in public schools. If you didn't go to public schools, I don't know if you had to do these. But basically, like, the questions would become more difficult if you were getting them right. And then once it found your plateau, then the questions would plateau in their difficulty. So basically, like, that's what the universe, that's what I'm being shown, is like, they'll keep giving you opportunities, and if you're not getting it, then they adjust, and they're like, okay, well, they're not doing that. So, and it's not because they're trying to give you grace or they're being patient with you. It's more like, well, this is just the universe is so much more objective than humans are. The universe is just like, well, this is what it is, so we now have to adjust. Or now this it's not that we have to, it's that, like, this is what it is, and so we are going to adjust. That's how the universe operates, is from that space of neutrality, which is why when you are trying to build your life and like bring things into your life, the best place to do it from is from that space of neutrality, which in colloquial terms, one of the easiest ways, I don't think it's that easy, but one of the most common ways, mainstream ways that we talk about getting into a neutral space is through, quote, meditation. Right? But really, like, anytime your brain is in theta waves and or you're in a neutral frame of mind, like, oh, I could take it or leave it. Like, yeah, I would enjoy that in my life, but if I don't get that thing, that's totally okay too. It's like that. Or it's like, oh man, I don't want that to happen to me, but if that does happen to me, that's okay too. It's just, it's a neutral kind of acceptance, because that is the code of the universe, is just neutrality. Like, karma is neutral, karmic relationships are neutral. I realize they don't feel freaking neutral. They don't feel fucking neutral. It doesn't feel neutral to be born into a family of a bunch of people who are villagers that stoned you at the stake however many lifetimes ago. That doesn't feel neutral, but that's the human. Humans do not operate on a neutral level. It's so funny because we like to think that we're so rational, But even behavioral economics, which is like people that they're scientists that study why people make the choices that they do, particular to economics and like finances, they're not neutral. They're not rational. People make choices based on their feelings, based on they call it we come up with reasons for why we do what we do, and we almost always call those reasons rational. They're not rational. We made this choice. I chose this bank because the bank teller kind of reminded me of my second grade teacher that I had a really positive interaction and connection with. And I don't remember any of that, but I'm saying I chose this bank because they have a slightly higher CD account, or a slightly higher interest rate in their CD accounts. What? Like, that's probably not even true. I probably didn't even look at the other banks. I just chose this one off of this emotional experience. That's how humans make their decisions. That is not how the universe doesn't make decisions. The universe responds, and responding is neutral. See what I mean? And so that is why, as humans, one of the greatest things we can do for our evolution is learn how to respond and not to react. This is coming from me. I'm a highly volatile person. I can be. Depends. It's nurture and nature. Okay, I'm not that upset with myself about it. It also didn't help that I continually got into connections with people that were very highly volatile. So then, yeah, it's just like both of us doing that. And I can be part of the ADHD. I can have huge, not just emotional reactions, but impulsive decisions while I'm having a really big emotion. And that is definitely one of my life paths, is like to feel. It's one of two things, because it's like, it's not to smush down the emotion. You don't want to smush down the emotion, because then it's going to make you sick and you're going to behave weirdly and develop some weird fetishes. So don't push down the emotion. But then it's like, well, great. So I feel the huge emotion, and then I have a spontaneous, impulsive choice that I make. Well, it's like, you're supposed to apparently allow yourself to feel the big emotion, and then also not make any choices or decisions or behaviors while in that big emotional state, because that's reactivity. And then you're supposed to revisit it later and respond, if a response is even necessary. That's a big part of my life path as well, by the way, which is, because I was born into a family of origin with a lot of cluster B personality disorders, okay? A lot. I do not have a cluster B personality disorder, but it's a moot point because I have a disorganized presently. I have an attachment style that is categorically could fit into the disorganized, which is, again, this black and white, like it's disorganized attachment style is akin to like, I really, really love this person. I'm also really, really afraid of this person. So again, it's this feeling two very different sensations towards the exact same person and trying to make sense of that. It's that whole capacity thing I'm talking about again. And then I'm autistic, which is black and white thinking all over the place. And then the ADHD is definitely connected to it, lower emotional regulation and more emotional volatility and expression. So all three of those things read like a cluster B personality disorder. I totally understand when people think I'm a narcissist. I totally get it because I read like one because of all those things I just listed. If you run into a narcissist, they don't have generally any impulse control. They don't have any emotional stability, and or they have to like cope a lot to try to get that. And they usually also have some pretty volatile relationships, and narcissism specifically, well, all cluster B specifically, are attachment disorders that then become personality disorders. That's my understanding of them from like a scientific perspective. Yeah. So anyways, but I'm not cluster B personality. I'll do a whole other video on the differences between those because there is a difference on like why I am not diagnosed as such, and why someone else might be, even though they share a lot of similarities. There are some distinctions. So yeah, capacity, I fall in love with all my clients and I can see their soul mission and their soul growth. It's not that I see it before them because they obviously knew it. All of them know it before the session. It's not that I see it before them. It's that I see it usually more vividly. And I just wish I could I wish I could like right now I have my phone plugged into my laptop right now, and I'm using the back camera of my phone to film this. I wish that I could, but I'm looking at myself on my laptop, right? So it's almost like I'm the phone and my client would be the laptop. I wish I could like plug in my brain, like my visual system, so that my clients could see what I am seeing. And that's where I just have my words. It's not just the words, it's the energy I use behind the words. I must be built for this though, because my guides aren't really all that concerned about my communication during sessions. Yeah, they're like, no, you're doing okay. I yeah, they're like, yeah, you're doing fine. It's fine. So I think that they kind of work in, yeah, they kind of work in the in between space to, they are also feeding clients information between the lines, essentially, like where the words can't describe everything that I'm seeing. Yeah, okay, I think that that's all I have to say right now. Okay, thanks, love you, bye. Hope this helps, love you, bye.